One empire ruled millions, then collapsed into chaos. The untold story of the Russian Empire. For centuries, the Russian Empire stood as one of the largest and most powerful empires in world history. Stretching across Europe, Asia, and even parts of North America, it covered enormous territories filled with diverse cultures, harsh landscapes, and immense natural resources. At its peak, the empire spanned from the Baltic Sea to the Pacific Ocean, ruling over millions of people from dozens of ethnic and religious backgrounds. Yet despite its massive size and influence, much of the Russian Empire's story remains overshadowed by revolution, war, and the rise of the Soviet Union. Behind the image of grand palaces and powerful czars lies a complicated history of expansion, ambition, suffering, and collapse. The origins of the Russian Empire can be traced back to the medieval state of Kievan Rus, a federation of Slavic territories centered around the city of Kiev. During the 13th century, Mongol invasions devastated the region, forcing Russian principalities under the control of the Mongol Empire for nearly 2 centuries. This period deeply shaped Russian politics and military culture. Over time, the Principality of Moscow began rising in power. Through strategic alliances, military victories, and political maneuvering, Moscow gradually united surrounding territories. By the late 15th century, Ivan III, also known as Ivan the Great, successfully ended Mongol domination and declared Moscow the center of a new Russian state. The transformation into a true empire began under Ivan IV, better known as Ivan the Terrible. Crowned as the first Tsar of Russia in 1547, Ivan expanded Russian territory through conquest and centralized political power under the monarchy. His reign was marked by both military success and brutal repression. While he expanded Russia eastward into Siberia, he also ruled through fear, executions, and violence. Siberia became one of Russia's greatest frontiers. Unlike many European empires that expanded overseas, Russia expanded across land. Explorers, traders, and Cossack warriors pushed eastward through forests, rivers, and frozen wilderness. By the 17th century, Russia had reached the Pacific Ocean, creating one of the largest continuous empires in history. One of the most important rulers in Russian history was Peter the Great. In the late 17th and early 18th centuries, Peter transformed Russia into a major European power. Fascinated by Western Europe's technology and military systems, he introduced sweeping reforms designed to modernize the empire. He built a powerful navy, reorganized the army, and expanded industry. Peter also founded the city of St. Petersburg in 1703. Built near the Baltic Sea, the city became Russia's new capital and symbolized the empire's connection to Europe. Often called the window to the West, St. Petersburg represented Peter's ambition to modernize and westernize Russia. Under Peter the Great and later rulers, the empire expanded rapidly. Russia defeated Sweden in the Great Northern War, gaining access to the Baltic region. It later expanded southward toward the Black Sea and into the Caucasus. Russian armies and settlers continued moving deeper into Central Asia and Siberia. Another legendary ruler was Catherine the Great, who ruled during the 18th century. Originally born in Germany, Catherine became one of Russia's most powerful empresses. She expanded Russian territory even further and strengthened the empire's influence across Europe. During her reign, Russia became one of the dominant military and political powers on the continent. However, beneath the empire's growth and military strength, major social problems existed. Most Russians were peasants, and millions lived as serfs, essentially forced laborers tied to land owned by nobles. Serfs worked under extremely harsh conditions and had very few rights. While the aristocracy enjoyed luxury and European culture, ordinary people often lived in poverty and hardship. This massive inequality created tensions throughout Russian society. Rebellions occasionally erupted, including the violent Kubichev rebellion during Catherine's reign. Although the revolt was crushed, it revealed the deep anger among peasants and lower classes. The Russian Empire also became known for strict autocratic rule. Tsars held enormous power, and political opposition was often suppressed. Secret police monitored dissent, censorship limited free expression, and revolutionary ideas were heavily controlled. Despite attempts at modernization, Russia remained politically conservative compared to many Western European nations. In the 19th century, the empire faced increasing challenges. Russia played a major role in defeating Napoleon during the Napoleonic Wars, helping save Europe from French domination. The Russian winter and massive Russian armies became legendary after Napoleon's disastrous invasion in 1812. Yet victory in Europe didn't solve Russia's internal weaknesses. The empire struggled with economic inefficiency, outdated infrastructure, and growing demands for reform. Industrialization arrived slowly compared to Britain, Germany, and France. One major turning point came during the Crimean War in the 1850s. Russia fought against an alliance of Britain, France, and the Ottoman Empire. The war exposed Russia's technological and military backwardness. Poor logistics, weak industry, and outdated tactics led to humiliating defeat. In response, Tsar Alexander II introduced major reforms, including the emancipation of the serfs in 1861. Millions of peasants were legally free, but many remained trapped in poverty due to unfair land arrangements and economic struggles. While reforms modernized parts of the empire, they also created new tensions. During the late 19th century, revolutionary movements grew stronger. Industrial workers faced difficult conditions in rapidly growing cities, while intellectuals demanded political freedoms and constitutional reforms. Radical groups began organizing against the monarchy, and political violence increased. At the same time, the empire continued expanding into Central Asia and the Far East. Russia even controlled Alaska until selling it to the United States in 1867. By the early 20th century, the Russian Empire had become one of the world's largest states, covering nearly one-sixth of Earth's land surface. But size did not guarantee stability. In 1905, Russia suffered a shocking defeat in the Russo-Japanese War. Japan's victory stunned the world because it marked the first time an Asian power defeated a major European empire in the modern era. The loss weakened confidence in the Tsarist government and triggered protests and unrest throughout Russia. Then came World War I. Russia entered the war in 1914 as part of the Allied powers. However, the conflict placed enormous pressure on the empire. Millions of soldiers died, food shortages spread, and economic collapse threatened daily life. Public anger against Tsar Nicholas II intensified as military defeats and political chaos continued. In 1917, revolution finally erupted. The Russian Revolution overthrew the monarchy, ending more than 300 years of Romanov rule. Soon after, the Bolsheviks led by Vladimir Lenin seized power, beginning the rise of the Soviet Union. The fall of the Russian Empire marked the end of one of history's greatest imperial powers. Centuries of expansion, conquest, and autocratic rule came crashing down under the pressures of war, inequality, and political unrest. Yet the empire's legacy still shapes the modern world today. Russian language, culture, religion, and political traditions continue influencing vast regions across Eurasia. Many modern borders, conflicts, and geopolitical tensions can be traced back to the imperial era. The Russian Empire was a land of contradictions, powerful yet unstable, modernizing yet deeply unequal, culturally rich yet politically oppressive. Its story is not just about tsars and conquest, but about millions of people living through centuries of transformation, struggle, and ambition. From the frozen plains of Siberia to the grand palaces of St. Petersburg, the untold story of the Russian Empire remains one of the most fascinating and dramatic chapters in world history.